Okay, we are live streaming, so we're just not quite at 2 o'clock, but yeah, no, it's not 2 o'clock yet. Should be now. It is 2 o'clock. Look, welcome everyone for coming along, particularly for councillors who have attended and mana whenua reps. We do have a few councillors who aren't able to be here, so it was really important that you did come. So thank you very much for your attendance today. We don't have anyone on Zoom. We have a number of apologies from Councillor Kett, Deputy Mayor Campbell, Mayor Clark, Councillor Ludlow, Councillor Crackett. Four of the five are on council business, with Councillor Kett still on leave. So, mover for those.
Move. Seconded.
Thanks, and seconded. Barry, all those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Do we have any declarations of interest in relation? Yes, Steve?
Thanks, Chair. I've just, Active South and my employer, I've just got a request in today's agenda for a road closure, submission for Surf to City.
Oh, okay, thank you for pointing that out. We don't, no, they're for noting, are they? Yeah, okay. We don't have any public forum, so we will move on to the first item, which is tab 4 of the agenda, which is the minutes of the Infrastructure Projects Committee from the 3rd of December. So,
I'll move that way, and the recommendation to council that's in those minutes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So that's in relation to the sale.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that?
I will second this.
Okay. So seconder, Evelyn. Any questions related to the minutes? Okay. There's none. So got a move and second. All over in favour?
Aye.
Against?
I don't think I was present.
You can be seconder and without being
Pro
present.
forma.
Yeah.
Pro forma.
Yeah.
No.
Are you happy to do that, or do you want me to change
no.
it? Yeah, thank you. Okay, tab 5, minutes of the public excluded session of the same meeting.
I'll move those.
And I'll second that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So move, Leslie, seconded. Evelyn, any questions? No, all those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Tab 6, minutes of the Extraordinary Infrastructure and Projects Committee meeting held on the 21st of January. Can I have a mover for those?
I'll move that way, and the recommendation to council.
Thanks, Leslie, and seconded Barry. Okay, questions related to that? No, there's none. Okay, thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Tab 7, so road closures. Welcome, Dave. Do you want to take us through the paper? And
Certainly. We have 4 temporary road closures today. It's the season. The first one is the Waitangi-esque Fest, and this is a road closure.
Doug, can I just ask you to pull that microphone a bit further forward? Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah. Is that better?
Yeah, that's good. Thanks.
Yes, it's gone tight.
S Street closure from D to Kelvin, 5 a.m. till 8 p.m. The event itself is between 11 and 4, so it's entertainment and stalls. I'm open to any questions.
Evelyn.
Mr. Chair, I'm not opposed to this. I'm just really offended by the fact that this event takes place on Thursday and we are only granting this today. There's a lot of presumption that has gone into all the planning of this that we will actually agree to the road closure. I'm not saying that we're not going to or that I want to say that way, but it should never be assumed that this committee will rubber stamp a request like this. I'm happy to speak to that.
Yeah, the question's probably related to what's the phasing of the decisioning around when these events are planned?
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, it was received late in November, across my desk pre-Christmas. So yeah, there's that awkward
Yes, so
That
I'm
will-
happy to speak to that, Chair, in that we received it too late to make the December Infrastructure Committee meeting. It was considered whether it would go to the January extraordinary, but we decided that we needed to keep that focused on the decision around Three Waters, in-house versus external. And so I made the decision internally that it was unlikely that council
Yeah.
wouldn't go ahead with it, and so I held it over until today so that it didn't get rushed through as part of that other agenda. So it was definitely submitted with, I would say, a very reasonable amount of time by the organisers, but with that closure of over Christmas and the Infrastructure Committee schedule, this was the first one that we were able to bring it to without an extraordinary.
Yeah, so I suppose the presumption is that management make those decisions around, what's the likelihood of support from council and phase it into the meetings at a time. But accept your point that we do put a level of trust in their executive team, which I think they're worthy of, but they wouldn't want to get it wrong, would they? Because we'd have egg on our face.
Yeah.
I think as well as that though, it behoves the organisers who know reasonably well in advance to apply, particularly when they know that they're the tight time frames around Christmas, and that I guess is the message that I'm wanting to send, rather than to our staff. It's that anybody who's applying for these things should not leave it.
Be aware of the time frame.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the question probably is how well do we make people that potentially want to close roads of our time frames? Is that well known, likes of Cycling South and will know through history,
Through the
Brett
chair,
Monroe, those sorts of characters?
through the chair, I can't say that it's well known, but I'll certainly follow up on it and make sure that it is.
Yeah.
We need to have a protocol and a process for this that's reasonably well understood. So
Yeah, it's a good point. Are you happy with that?
I am very happy with that.
Okay, Erin. Ria, did you have a question?
Probably go after Steve if that's okay.
Okay, yep. Fine.
Oh, sorry, no, I totally understand the slight clunkiness of the dates. November 25th seems like enough time, but I just wondered, from an event planning standpoint, what is our communication piece back to the event organisers? Because, it probably won't, but it may go the other way. So how do we communicate back to them?
Once we've made the decision, are you talking, or?
Well, no, because the event's underway, it's been promoted, so I was just wondering from a council standpoint, how do we communicate back any kind of assurance that they're good to go?
So obviously we would always advise people of if we thought that there were any concerns with the likelihood of council to approve an event. However, this was one where we haven't said to them that we expect that council wouldn't approve it, that we would expect that it would go through.
Yeah.
I don't believe that it's been followed up.
that's
but
my knowledge.
Yeah.
so
It's,
there is probably a certain degree of assumption there
Yeah.
around it. What I would say, though, is that it's a good point around the timing, because obviously we received several last year where they weren't formally applied for, and staff actually put in the application on behalf of the event, having seen the event advertised. So it definitely is one of those ones where some reiteration of the need to get your road closure information in a timely manner is definitely warranted.
Okay.
yeah.
Just on that, Mr. Chairman, I can give the council, the committee an assurance that we will communicate with our regular applicants for road closures, and we'll reiterate the process and the timelines we expect.
Yeah. Thank you. That's good. Okay.
So on that basis, I'm prepared to move the recommendation.
Thank you. Sorry, Ria wanted to
Oh, sorry.
have a say. So if you're
It's
happy.
okay. You're the elder, so.
No, you don't want to have a say?
No, I do actually. Sorry, Mr. Chair. I can totally empathise at the timing of when we needed to bring this into council. We were with local water done well and everything to do with that. So I understand that that's the reason why this is late. And I was going to move the recommendations, all three.
In that case, I will defer to Ngā
No, we'll
Pui.
take you as mover and Ria as second.
Thank you, Ngāi Tahu.
Okay. So mover and seconder. So we've had questions. So we're approving the road closure as requested. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. The
through the-
next one, Doug?
Yep, through the chair, the Surf to City, the annual event. This is a regularly organised event. The details are in the paper. It'll be a closure from 9 till 12:30. finishing at Queen's Park, Victoria Avenue, and starting at the beach. So, usual event.
Happy to move the recommendations, Mr Chair.
Happy to second.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Okay. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. 2 down, 2 to go.
Number 3, the National Pipe Band Championships. The event's actually being held I think at the Southland Cricket Association. However, this is for the March, so they have a march on the 8th of March, which is a Saturday, and they want preparation time between 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. The march itself will occur between 8 and 12, and the route is defined in the paper. There is a contingency because we are undertaking works, and I will confirm that with the organisers once we get confirmation from our water team how the progress is going with their renewals.
Yeah, okay. Cool. Any questions?
Happy to move this
Thank-
way. I'll just comment that the last time this event occurred in Invercargill was extremely successful and
Yeah.
a huge turnout,
There was.
despite the fact that the weekend it happened was the beginning of COVID.
That's right.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Ashley Bromfield was actually part of
Right. there
of
you
one
go.
of the
Sort of a fact.
contingents.
It was a very successful event
It
last
was
time.
an extremely successful,
it's wonderful.
and it's been well looked forward to that we got a repeat, so
Yeah, it's good.
it's great for
Well
the
done.
economy of Invercargill.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
is.
absolutely.
And
Okay.
as a previous attendee of these events, who also enjoys it very much, I'm happy to second.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, we've got a mover and second. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Doug, last one.
Number 4, through the chair, this is slightly wrongly identified in the agenda as Don Street. It is actually an S Street closure, which is, I think, pleasing to see.
Yeah, the Provals Feast Street, yeah.
Yeah, that is, again, 28th of March, between 2 and 10, entertainment, food stalls and so on. Good day out.
Okay.
Happy to move.
Thank you, Rhea. Barry seconded. No further questions? Okay, all those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you, Doug. Well
Thank
done.
you,
4 from 4. So the next item, tab 11, is our draft permitted liquor tanker waste streams policy. This was an interesting policy, so
Thank you very much for
Welcome.
inviting me here today.
no worries. Thanks for coming. Do you want to take us through it? And
Yep, this policy is related to our trade waste bylaw, and in our trade waste bylaw we have a relationship to the policy, permitted tanker waste stream policy, which effectively we've got 3 recommendations for the committee. Obviously to receive the policy today. It's noted that we have engaged with early engagement with our people. This policy directly relates to contractors, not to the public,
Yeah.
and we've engaged with them directly. We don't believe it needs to go to public consultation. The third one is to make a recommendation to council to accept the policy, so that forms part of the trade waste bylaw. When the trade waste bylaw was done in 2017, the policy was never accepted by, or not formally adopted by council, and this is why the policy is up today. The policy is around the permitted activity of the tanker waste coming to our treatment plant, predominantly Clifton, and it sets some health and safety regulations, some conditions around what is permitted and what is not permitted, as per the appendices in the back of the policy. And it sets out some health and safety regulations and that sort of stuff. The significance around this, there's no cost associated to it. If there is a non-compliance, we'll take the companies to and invoice them directly for the losses and part of that. If there's any questions, it's a pretty simple policy. If you've got any questions, I can answer them.
yeah, I think, Aaron, do you want to?
Yeah, I just wanted to add this statement just to note that this is a particularly key policy. Admittedly, it's already largely being followed by those who discharge to the treatment plants anyway, but it's really critical that we ensure that we control the quality of waste going to our wastewater treatment plants. If we get waste that's not of the correct quality, doesn't meet the right limits, then that can have a profound impact on our wastewater treatment plant, and therefore our ability to meet our consent conditions and the impact on the environment. So, as Russell notes, this is a tidy up of the good practice that was really in place already, but it is a critical piece of policy for us.
Thanks, Sharon. Any questions? Ria?
Thank you, Mr Chair. I've really got a couple of questions about this. Going through the document, I noted that Council had consulted with 11 stakeholders, and I'm wondering, and you've just kind of half answered my question, you've said that Council consulted with contractors and that wouldn't be going out to the public communication until 2027, I think I read somewhere.
Yes, that is correct.
So who are the 11 stakeholders? Can I ask that?
Well,
or is
I think they're 11 contractors, aren't they? Russell?
11 contractors.
And
Yeah.
here it says stakeholders, but that's
Yeah, it's
okay.
contractors, yeah.
Okay.
So,
And sorry, can I clarify, Russell, those are the 11 providers that currently discharge to our wastewater treatment plants, is that correct?
That is correct, yep.
Okay, and since this policy's been endorsed since 2017, yet we haven't formally adopted it, what, if any, has there been of any non-compliance? Any occasions?
None.
None? Zero? Okay, thank you.
yeah, so that's a good question I was sort of thinking of around, so when you say non-compliance, Russell, that's none with those 11 agents?
That is,
But is there any sort of this waste that's listed on here that gets into our system, you know, by someone inadvertently or deliberately tipping it down the drain? Do we measure that?
We don't know that because it may or may not happen. We can't control it. The only time that we would allow anything to go into our network is on our approval. For example, when our waste treatment plant is out of service, our disposal area, we would then organise a different place to put that in, but that would be controlled by us.
Yeah.
So all the normal stuff that we get on a day-to-day basis comes to our Clifton Wastewater Treatment Plant.
So,
Russell, it just might be worth noting, we wouldn't note the organisation, but we did have issues, as I recall, in about Christmas about 2022, where we received, not via tanker, but via the network, wastewater that caused us some issues at the Clifton Wastewater Treatment Plant that took us quite a few months, as I recall, to get the plant back into correct operation.
I think it wasn't through the network, it was through a tanker load or tanker loads to our treatment plant. Unfortunately, we were told what the material was, which was a normal occurrence, and unfortunately the material we got wasn't the normal stuff we were expecting. And it's just imagine that our treatment plant is like your stomachs. You can eat something and it takes a while to actually respond. And that's exactly what happened to our digesters. We got some material in, went through the process, no major problems, but over a short period of time we noticed that our bugs weren't working very well. So it's something that we knew what we were expecting, but it didn't happen that way.
So Russell, in that instance, there would be a cost that we would charge back to that?
If we could identify the person, yes, we would do that.
Right.
On the circumstances, we had a number of very large trucks coming in from different places, so it's very hard to identify who that was. So, yes, you couldn't put your finger on who it was. We are very respectful of our contractors, and basically accusing them without having any knowledge is pretty difficult. Going forward, we particularly take more interest on unusual products coming into our plant, and that's why the policy is there for, so we can actually advise our contractors what we can and cannot accept. And we do a lot of due diligence to investigate those ones which are borderline.
Do we do any sampling of, like, do we, do a dipstick or whatever into how it's coming in? Like,
No, we don't. What we do is basically we get identified from the contractors what they're bringing in, and if it's standard and it's on our list, we let it go through. If they've got something unusual, they will ring our lab staff and ask if it's acceptable, and we will make a decision one way or the other.
so it's a high trust model, isn't it? Sorry, I've got
And-
Evelyn, and
yeah.
then Pania, then Ria, then Leslie.
So that was one of my questions. You're operating on a very high trust model. I'm sorry, I'm in zero trust mode. It occurs to me that because of the impact on the both the equipment and on potentially on the receiving waters, that every load that is taken in should have a sample taken so that you remove all doubt. You have samples that you can test that say if something was non-compliant, and then you're not accusing somebody of something, you know exactly who it was. However, I'm governance, not management, that's operational, I leave that with you. Go back to my other questions. You've talked about this with the contractors. However, there are people who have other interests, including iwi and Environment Southland. Was the original policy consulted on with them, or is this something that is purely council only?
My understanding, it wasn't.
Over the years since I've been involved here, I've had this question asked and never really known the answer. So this policy came across my eyes and I went, oh, I imagine the office has seen this, and the first thing I did was ring up and say, and they went, what policy? So I think that whilst the contractors need to know, I think there are people who are concerned and have a vested interest in how this policy is constructed and operated, and could we look at what we do to better communicate to, because we're talking all the time on the impact that past activities have made on New River estuaries, and what you're indicating is that we've had at least one event in the last 5 years that potentially may have negatively impacted the discharge, even if for a short time, into the New River estuary of who knows what. I think we as citizens have a right to be concerned, but can we do better? And that's the question I'm posing. How do we do better?
I'm happy to speak to that. I think some of this is also around getting the balance right around regulation and also not over-regulating, because what we want is people bringing this to the treatment plant. The last thing that we want is people discharging into manholes on the network or discharging outside of the network altogether. So the treatment plant is the right place for discharge to be coming to. I take on the point around checking loads, and Russell will know about this a lot more than me, but I doubt that it's as simple as dipsticking the load on the way in. We're talking about everything from, dare I get into it, the volume of solids versus liquid, etc., in the wastewater and how that impacts the plant. So that would be something that would be quite a regime that we would have to look at in terms of how we would test that and the resources and cost associated with it. If council wanted to, it could, provide as part of the resolution a request that a proposal come back for how council would look to do that, but it would be one that would likely involve cost associated with it.
So I have a couple of supplementaries to that. One is, when we're looking at the renewal of the wastewater treatment station, will this be one of the issues that we might investigate during what will be a much more complex process, how we actually evaluate everything that we're taking, given that we have been operating on a high trust model. And the sort of the follow-up to that, though, is that within this policy there's also quite a number of things that are not able to be put into our scheme, And that's the other question I get asked. What happens to that?
It was my question, I was thinking.
Where does that go? Because if it's too toxic for our system, or if it's too complex for the way that we manage our system, where does it go and how is it managed, and what potential environmental impacts might come from that?
I don't know, Russell, whether you can answer, but I think it was usually a dewatering activity, and the landfill is often the other place that things go. Is that correct?
It also could go north to Dunedin or Christchurch, some of those really high toxic
The other
materials.
thing with those industries that are associated with them, they would be regulated through not a local government
That
act,
is
but
correct.
through Hazards New Zealand or some of those other regulatory bodies, wouldn't they? So they would have to have a licence, which would include discharge of contaminants or waste, would be what I'd be saying. So,
Yes.
Reverend Cook covered both of my questions, sorry.
Thank you. Ria.
Oh, I've asked my question. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Leslie.
Along a similar line, the fact that we've had a breach and that Russell tells us we were informed of the contents, but at least one tanker had contents that were different, and you're saying we can't identify which contractor, which then of course puts all 11 contractors under suspicion, makes me wonder whether it is for health and safety reasons and reasons of the cost involved, whether even a randomised check, similar to what we've just instituted for the yellow bins, is worth exploring. It just seems, I know it's only once in a 3-4 year period, but it's a costly mistake when it happens, and when it puts all 11 of our contractors under suspicion, it's a bit of a concern. I just wonder whether it is worth, if we're going to look at something additional to the recommendation, whether it's worth at least investigating a randomised check.
Yes, I think they're good points. What my thought is, but I'll take some guidance from probably you and Michael, was, and it's a bit to what you talked about, Evelyn, I think this should be rolled up in part of our consenting process for Clifton, in the sense of, you know, that we understand more fully, to use the term, what is coming through that plant, not only through our network, but equally through these types of means. And, you know, we look to try and eliminate risk or enhance the environmental outcome in the most practical way. So that's, I think that captures what we've discussed. I think the policy, it's good that we've now got a policy that we're approving, and we've got something to, you know, regulate against and review. And I think the next opportunity is for us, because that's not too far away, is it? The Clifton review, as we roll some of the thinking that we've just discussed into that review. So, thoughts on that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just wondering, given and hearing what councillors have said, what are other plants doing to oversee that product coming in is within that perimeter of the policies? I mean, surely other councils have some sort of, not such a high trust model, but a process. I mean, do we know of one? Obviously,
Russell, have you looked across other councils?
Yeah, had a glance and seen what could work here.
Through the chair, no, we haven't. I was just talking to Adrian, he's in our lab. If we were to take samples, it could take weeks to get results of that. So the tankers arrive, and we do diligence in identifying. Now we've had that problem, which has only been once in the last 20 years that I know of. So it's not very often. And we do look at those situations now that we have got some concerns about, and we always look on the side of preventing that incident happening again. So doing random sample tests probably doesn't give us any advantage.
No, logistically it's quite a challenge.
Because they've got a tanker load of material there. If we did that on a random sample, we would have those tankers sitting full, well, they have to do something with it for weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I understand
it's-
that.
So to address your concern or question is probably, in the discovery that we do around Clifton when we go to do the consent, that would come through. I would suspect that we'd be looking around how other waste treatment plants, treat.
I'd like to also suggest when we do that, we look at what IT that they put to this, such as cameras, when those loads are being dumped.
We, through Chair, we do have CCTV on those sites now.
Oh, great,
Yeah.
thank you. I wasn't sure.
We also have log registers when they come in
Oh.
and identifying what loads they are
Oh,
and what
that's-
type of material.
That's
Yeah.
probably enough then.
Okay, so we'll take the last
Yeah.
question, Evelyn, and then we'll move
So,
forward.
yes, so Mr Chair, through you, I wasn't actually really anticipating that tankers would have to wait until the samples have been tested. What I'm really indicating in my thinking, and we're all of much of a muchness, whether it's testing everybody or random testing, is the knowledge that we test and that we will have samples should something happen to test against has a deterrent effect, or potentially has a deterrent effect. I was not of the mindset that we would make tankers wait until testing had been done. I didn't envisage that would have been practical. There may be some things that you see immediately, but given everything that's been said today, we've, I guess, are sending a signal that we're not entirely comfortable with the high trust model. However, that's for
Next council.
management and operations to find a way, and particularly before the consent comes due, to start looking at how we may get that assurance going forward that the best possible practices by both contractors and our system are there for the environmental outcomes that we all desire. So thank you for the opportunity to speak to it.
Yeah, no, it is good. Okay, look, so can I have someone that's prepared to move the recommendation which we adopt this policy? I think the minutes will capture the discussion and then we can work that forward into the...
Can I just request do we need to amend that resolution in any way?
Look,
Note
I'm happy
that-
to go with the discussion we've had, and it's in the minutes, as opposed to adapt the recommendation.
I
Other
just want
committee
to be
members,
clear on,
Yeah,
is
no,
there
it's a
any
good question.
action that comes out of it ahead of the Clifton process?
we happy to...
Perhaps as long as the minutes are a little bit more in detail of the
Yeah.
discussion
Yeah.
than they might normally have been, I
Yeah,
think that
so
would then
we'll note
capture
that.
what we're all...
So
And
can I
it's-
clarify, Chair, that there is a request for something to come back to the committee?
Well, the minutes will come back to the committee member.
No, but there is a request for something to come back to the
No.
committee?
No, there's
No,
not.
not
No.
at this stage.
No, there's
Okay,
No.
thank you.
Righto. Mover? Thanks.
I'll move.
Oh, thanks. I'll take Barry mover, Leslie seconder. Okay. No final discussion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thanks, Russell. Good discussion. And as Evelyn said, it's good to have the discussion, make us more aware of some of the sort of things we need to be aware of. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Next item 12, Three Waters Pipeline Renewal Report.
Yes, I'm happy to take that one, Chair.
Okay. So do you want to take it as read or do you want to speak to it a little bit?
I'll just speak very briefly to it. As the committee will be aware from the number of road cones that we've had around the city over the summer, there is a significant amount of work that is currently underway in the Three Waters space, as well as obviously the reseal program that's been happening as well this year. There may have been a few tongue-in-cheek comments made around Invercargill potentially having glowed orange from space for a little while. But what I would say is on the other side of that, as much as it has been a disruption, and for the most part the community have been, really supportive of us getting in and getting that work done, it is critical work for our infrastructure. And as much as it's been disruptive, what I'd like to say is that it's one of actually the best years that we've had in terms of making sure that we get that right order of operation of do the underground services first, then the pre-reseals team come through and they tidy up the road ready for reseal, and then those reseal crews come through. Now obviously that means that we wind up with 3 separate sites in one season, but that prevents us from being in that situation where we reseal a road and then 3 years down the track we go, oh whoops, now we need to do the pipes and we need to rip it back up. So as much as it's been disruptive, it has actually been the right thing for us to be doing in terms of that order of operation. The program's moving along reasonably well. The first sort of tranche went out the door. There's a second lot, really big group of work that's ready to go out to the market at the moment. And then it will really be down to how much market capacity there is to get that work done throughout the year. I would note, I think there were some comments made during the Three Waters discussion around now being perhaps some of the best time to get work done around the country, and we are definitely seeing that. We're seeing some very competitive pricing coming in at the moment, and that would reflect the fact that we are slightly under budget compared to where I would like to be at this point in the year, but the work is probably reflecting about where we would expect to be. We've just paid a little bit less for it than we had otherwise expected. So happy to take any questions.
So, Ria, then Evelyn.
I just wanted to congratulate you and the team, Miriam, for doing such a good job at making sure that there is a seamless process, because previous years in other cities that can be quite a nightmare to organise. So thanks to you and your team for doing that. I was going to move all 3 motions, but I noticed that Evelyn wants to ask a question.
Oh, well, a comment first. Like Ria, I've had some positive feedback and from all persons, a taxi driver, at commenting on just what Erin mentioned about the fact that they had observed that there was some sort of everything getting done in some sort of sequence, so not ropping up the roads constantly, so that was the thing. Noticed, however, that amongst all the sea of green dots, the smattering of yellow dots, there is one red. And why is the poor Space Street water main renewal red? Because I feel that Space Street may feel neglected in this basis, but also because it's an important roadway for us and it will inevitably be disruptive once it starts progressing.
So the Space Street job is one of the jobs that we've got as a package out with our consultants. I think we spoke previously around the fact that we've got that in-house design team, but due to the size of the program, we've got work split across our in-house design team and external designers as well. On this particular one, when it was reviewed by the in-house team, they had some concerns and some questions around the design, and they're working through that with the external contractors at the moment, and that's just put that project on hold while those matters are resolved.
So, supplementary to that, how critical is the Space Street renewal to the effectiveness of the system, given that it's an inner city project?
Yeah, so we're still, at this stage, I'm still expecting that one will go ahead this year. It's just that it's behind program.
Thank you for that.
Barry, did you have a question?
Yeah, what's the durability of this? I've seen all the pipe work is going in. What's the durability of that pipe in lifespan time and the jointing of it? Because it's fusion joint.
Yeah. Depends on the pipe material, and I'm probably not the best one to talk to that. If you'd like, for the next committee meeting, I could get Rob Hayes, who runs our engineering services team, to come and have a chat through those lifespan issues and
I'd like to
key areas of concern, if that's of interest.
There'll be a standard, though, that those pots have to be
absolutely.
around a iOS, whatever.
Yeah.
2 years.
It just depends on the pipe material that we're
right.
using.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. No, Red.
So with the red, yellow and green chart that I'm looking at, Evelyn's brought it up. It says that it's been delayed due to the Space Street contamination of soil. Can you give us an idea of what that contamination is?
Let me just double check on that one.
I didn't see it on my sheet because it was too small to read, but I just saw it on the screen.
Due to contamination.
Oh, sorry,
I
I
missed it,
apologise, I've just slightly gotten those two mixed up. It's the Mersey Street one that's got the design issue, sorry.
Ah.
The Space Street one is the one that has had, when they've done the site inspections, they've found contamination. I'm not sure exactly what the contamination was, but they're doing further site investigation on that at the moment. I can email that around if you'd like to know
Yeah,
the
that'd be
specific
great. Yeah.
Is
that'd be
that
great.
Lower Space
content
Street?
that they found. I believe it's
Middle.
approaching the
Down the
railway
bottom
line.
near Bond Street?
Yeah.
So you've got, has no site from the
Yes.
old
Oh, yes,
gas
absolutely. There's
gas
a number of things there.
plant and the, because I'm old, I know these things, the old landfill that was even
Oh.
earlier than that with the reclamation and all that. You know, you don't
Yeah.
want to know.
I believe the team are, have a reasonably good idea of where the contamination's coming
Yeah.
from.
So I just had a couple, a note, and it's similar to the other feedback. I think the contractors, have been very good at managing those sites. Like they've looked to release roads back to the traffic grid as soon as practicable. I think, I've driven through most of those various times, and so I think they've done a great job of just trying to make it as effective as they possibly can. So
Yeah, we also got some really nice feedback on social media, even just this week, where there was a business that was impacted
Yeah,
and
I've
sort
seen
of
that.
had to
Yeah.
update. And so the team noticed that on social media, went out, sent the project manager and the contractor out to have a chat. And then we got some very nice
That's really
feedback
good.
on social media around the fact that we'd reworked the site to make it work a little bit better for them, so that was great.
yeah, I did see that.
Saw
was
that
very
too,
good.
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
So-
cool. Right, can I get someone to move and second, we received the reports and note the status. So Evelyn and Pania, all those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. And then tab 13, land disposal. Heather, you've been busy again.
I think we've seen this one before.
Yeah, looks familiar.
I've got a question. I've got a question, about 3.
Thank you, Chair. So there's obviously is a parcel of land that's on the disposals list. We have done all our due diligence around this. This was taken for roading purposes for the Bainfield Road Queen's Drive roundabout. And I am seeking approval as to the method of disposal due to its size, its location, accessibility problems and things like that.
Yeah, so that's why the preferred message is just offer to those
the
immediately as
first
opposed to go to
instance.
market, because it's just logistically a nightmare for market.
There are some issues if you were trying to put an access onto
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the neighbours are also maintaining the property at the moment.
Yeah, cool. Okay. Rhea?
Thank you, Mr Chair. I say thank you to the neighbours for maintaining that piece of land for all these years. Heather, my questions are fairly, I've got a couple. So in the disadvantages, option and advantages graph, we've got in there that any offer received does not meet the valuation received by Council June 2024. So what was the land valued at?
I don't have that offhand and I'm not sure that I would want to put that into public preempting a value.
Okay, so I guess what I'm trying to figure out is I suspect because it is problematic where it's located, access in and out and what have you in the shape, I suspect that if it was to go to the market through commercial, that the sale of that would be minimal, given what costs would come out.
Buyer interest would be minimal. Is that what you're
Buyer
trying to
interest
say?
would be minimal.
Buyer interest would be minimal, yeah.
Yeah, and if that occurs, what's our strategy? We've gone to the neighbours, they don't want to buy it, it's too hard to what's our strategy?
The next option is to go out to the market to see if there is any interest and whatever that looks like.
Or just leave it for another day.
Or it's
Well, that was what I was getting to. If it doesn't have the neighbour interest, doesn't have the market interest, are we better to bring it back off and just put it into a holding area?
that would be the
The only
option,
thing we can do
or
really.
an option, yes.
Okay. Turn it into a park or something?
Ringy?
Thanks, Chair. On the council website, on the maps, it's got the land value of $180,000, so that's public. information.
The ratings value,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes, it's there. So I talked to a real estate agent and he said, well, at 372 square metres, someone could put an offer in for the land on proviso that they apply to council for dispensation to actually build on it, a third of the square meterage. It's under 28 metres under the 400, which is necessary, but that is an option. I see access to the land is no different from the properties from either side of it.
Yeah, that's a planning resource.
Yeah.
I can't answer those questions.
I can
sorry.
actually see no use for the neighbours to.
I suppose, yeah,
to
they will
actually
form,
do
they
it.
will form that view themselves.
But that's right, it's their view, but I see entertaining an offer from someone who would like to apply to council, and I don't know what the chances are. I could ask the general manager of regulatory if he wanted to put his 10 cents in, but he may not wish to.
And compromise himself.
So that would have to be tested, dead right, that would have to be tested. A third of that, you can build to a third, so that's 120 square metres, so that's very real.
Yeah. Well, I suppose the request puts that to the meeting around whether we approve it or not, doesn't it? So we'll find out. Any other questions? Okay, so I've got a mover and a second to receive the land disposal and approve the method of disposal, which is the
Ask the neighbours if
seek
they like
offers
it.
as option, the first option, seek offers from the adjoining owners is the preferred option.
Yep.
You moved that?
And-
Just sorry, one more question. Do we have a minimum offer we will accept? Because obviously if they offer $5,000, do we accept it?
All offers would be
We'll just work through it.
considered.
Who's going to make that call?
Well, as with other
They come back
land
to
disposals
to
comes
us
to the
for-
management, and then they just make a decision around whether they come through.
yeah.
Patricia?
This process would go like we've done all the other land disposals, and we would bring the offers back to council.
Right, cool.
Yes.
That's good.
That's
No, totally sweet with me.
righto. So move, Pania, second.
I'm happy to second.
Thank you. Okay, all those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Righto. I think that's us.
We're going to wastewater workshop. Yeah.
What wastewater workshop?
Yep. Right. Well, thank you very much.
Who said that?
We're finished. Thanks for coming.